soars out of here. Wow! It leaves the ballpark on the fly.
What's going on, everyone? Mr. Octagonal here, and we are finally on MLB The Show 20. Really excited to have my hands on this game, as we will be kicking off episode 1 here of our franchise series. If you're new to the channel, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. So a lot of great stuff coming up within these next few weeks involving MLB The Show 20. First things first, as you can see, I am downloading a roster from the vault because the base rosters were absolutely atrocious. I'm going to look for better rosters on the vault, but this is the best I can do. So the team we're going to be rocking with, if you saw the team reveal, is going to be the Pittsburgh Pirates, and this was a really tough decision. I had multiple votes on it, and you guys were split between the Pirates and the Athletics, and this was an extremely tough choice for me. If you told me a week ago who my franchise would be, I would have told you it would have been the A's. So I was really back and forth on this, but I decided to go with the Pirates, and I'm excited to get this series officially started. So I'm putting everything on manual because that's the way I like it, except for scouting. I've never really done scouting in MLB The Show. Find it kind of complicated, and I'd rather just not worry about it. I'd rather just have the computer do it. So if you're new to the channel and you don't know how my franchises work, I like to keep them realistic. You're going to see some big moves and trades every once in a while, but like episode 1 here, we're not going to make any trades. We're just going through the roster, starting with the pitchers. And one of the more interesting players on this roster is Jameson Taillon. Taillon is coming off Tommy John surgery. He will not be pitching in real life at all this season, and for the purpose of realism, we will not have him pitch either. We're going to send him down to single A, and that's where he will be all season. And when he comes back as a 27-year-old, I mean, that's not a spring chicken anymore. So he's a guy we could look to build around with his potential, but also a potential trade piece once he's healthy. Looking at the rest of the rotation, here is Chris Archer, acquired in a 2018 trade from the Rays. The Pirates sent the Rays Austin Meadows and Tyler Glasnow, both of whom are like younger than 25 and both now all-stars. So for reasons like that, that's why we picked the Pirates this year. There's also Joe Musgrove, a player who we acquired last year in our franchise with the Diamondbacks at the trade deadline for the final season to help our World Series push, and it clearly worked. Musgrove was really good, and we ended up winning the World Series. After him, we got Trevor Williams, 27-76. Him and Musgrove are both borderline guys. Two players who I think had the potential to be long-term players here, but it's far from certain. Someone who I'm sure we're going to be building around is the Pirates' top prospect, Mitch Keller. 23 years old, 73 overall with 8 potential. He's a big part of our future, but also a big part of our right now because he is Major League ready. He's going to be in the starting rotation, and he will be a Major League player for us on day 1. Then there's Brandon Waddle, and I did some research, and he is a 25-year-old prospect in this organization, but he's not a top prospect. For reasons like this, that's why I'm looking for new rosters, better rosters. So if I find them, Waddle probably won't be in our long-term plans, but maybe he's a decent prospect. And then the rest of the pitching rotation, I mean, there's not a lot of talent here. Stephen Brault will likely be the number 5 starter, but then behind him, I mean, there are no legitimate prospects in our farm system, so we're really going to have to make some moves within these next couple of seasons, looking for talented pitchers to join the organization. The bullpen isn't much better. Our top reliever, not including the closer, is Kyle Crick, 73 overall, and then another 73 overall is Richard Rodriguez. Both of these guys are solid. Rodriguez is 30. We're not going to build around him long term. Kyle Crick, maybe, because we don't have many other options. And then the rest of the bullpen isn't much better. Michael Feliz, Robbie Erlin, he'll probably be the long reliever, former San Diego Padre. Then there's Nick Birdie, who has B potential, but doesn't really have that much upside considering his age. And then also, as you can see, not a lot of great prospects in the farm system. So, just like the starting rotation, we're really going to have to search for relievers. And I wouldn't be surprised if we prioritize pitching early on in this series when it comes to drafting and trading for prospects. Looking at the closer, Keone Kela. He's actually a pretty good player, 82 overall, 26 years old, coming off a phenomenal season last year. I don't know why the Rangers traded him when they did, but there's one problem. Keone Kela is an unrestricted free agent at the end of the season, so if we don't want to pay him top closer money, or elite closer money, we might have to trade him at the deadline. So he's a name to watch when it comes to potential players who could be moved. Then there's Scott Foster. I don't know if he's a real prospect. At 73 overall, same thing. Like, I don't think these guys are real. I'm just waiting for better rosters to come. Looking at the catcher, Jacob Stallings, 78 overall. Probably not a long-term piece in our plans. Had a little bit of playing time last year, but has never really gotten his feet wet in the majors. And behind him, we got John Ryan Murphy and Luke Maley. All three of these guys are below average hitters, but really good defenders with really good arms. So I guess that's what you'll see from catcher, at least early on in this series, but I don't expect to build around any of these players. And then in the farm system, there's really not a lot of talent. Nobody in the entire organization has an A or B potential of a position, so that's kind of scary. You know who else is scary at the plate at least? Josh Bell, the best player on this team, 27 years old, 86 overall, coming off a phenomenal season. He was an MVP candidate through the first half of the year. Then the second half of the year, he sort of fizzled off a little bit, but was still a really, really good player. A guy who looked disappointing early in his career has really become a phenomenal player. He is the star of this team and likely a guy who we will be building around long term. And then behind him, there's Jose Osuna, who's a solid depth piece. And then Will Craig is the only other first baseman in the organization in AAA. At second base, Adam Frazier. He can play almost any position. He is a very solid player. He is 28, though, which isn't the youngest. And then if he doesn't work out, we also have Kevin Newman, a phenomenal contact hitter at 26 years old. So a lot of these guys are like those hybrid ages where maybe we can build around them, maybe it doesn't work out, to be determined, I guess. And then Kevin Kramer, he'll be a solid utility piece off of the bench. Not a lot of great prospects at the position. Moving on to third base, there's Colin Moran, 27 years old, 73 overall, coming off a solid year, 277, 13 home runs, 80 RBIs. And he's another one of those guys who could be a piece long-term, maybe. But a player who I'm sure will be a piece long-term we build around without a doubt is Brian Hayes. 22 years old, a potential, the top hitting prospect on the team. He will be in AAA this year, but will likely be ready next season or late this year. We'll have to see how he progresses at the AAA level. Looking at shortstop, Cole Tucker, only 22 years old, 71 overall, and he has some pretty nice hair. Tucker's coming off a meh rookie season. I know those numbers are bad, but for a 21-year-old last year, they're not awful. There's also Eric Gonzalez, who will be a utility piece early on. JT Riddle, another utility guy. And then behind them, O'Neal Cruz, an A potential prospect. When I was doing some research on this roster a couple days ago, he really stood out. 6'7", 175. So we have Slenderman on our team at shortstop. He's definitely going to be a guy who we look to build around, and really excited to see what he can do. And obviously, at that size, I mean, that's the size of an NBA player who is 17 years old and is not fully in their body yet. Looking at left field, there's some talented prospects, not including Justin Conrad, at 50 overall, 26 with A. He doesn't really have upside, but Chris Sharp and Pablo Reyes both have upside. Looking at center field, Brian Reynolds, definitely a player who I think will be on this team long-term. Phenomenal contact hitter. Last year as a rookie, he hit .314 with 16 home runs, 68 RBIs. I think a 78 is super disrespectful, and I think he should have A potential as well. This is a really, really good player. Probably our second best hitter behind Josh Bell. And then behind him, there are a few talented players, including A potential Travis Swaggerty, currently at the AA level, so he's definitely a guy I'd like to build around. Maybe Jason Martin as well, 23 years old, 70 overall. Then at right field, Gregory Polanco, 28 years old, 73 overall. I assume he was hurt last year. He didn't really get a lot of playing time, but I mean, this is a guy who I think would likely be a trade piece early on, and I think he could fetch a decent offer. Has 2 years left on his deal, so we're in no rush to move him, but if he plays well, has an all-star caliber season, I think we could get a big haul for him at the deadline. And then there's also Gerard Dyson. And Dyson's always been a speed guy. I mean, he's not going to provide a ton of value at the plate, but when he gets on base, I mean, he's a threat to steal a bag any play. And then not a lot of prospects behind them. So as you can tell, this team isn't awful. I don't think we're going to be in the triple digits when it comes to losses. No, this team has a chance to win 70 to 75 games this year, but there's not a lot of talent in the farm system, so we have some work to do. Here's a look at the starting lineup versus DHs, at least versus right-handed pitchers. Doesn't matter too much since we're not in the AL, but for opening day, we are playing Tampa Bay in Tampa Bay, so I guess it does matter for our opening series. But the lineup that does matter, right-handers with no DH, going with Reynolds, Moran, Bell, Polanco, Newman, Osuna, Frazier, Stallings, and then the pitcher spot. Looking at left-handers versus DH, this lineup also does not matter too much because, remember, we play in the National League. We will rarely see American League ballparks and play against American League teams where we need a DH. Here's the left-handed lineup with no DH, so this one does apply to us. Reynolds, Newman, Polanco, Bell, Moran, and a bunch of other fools. I hope you read that because I'm not going over it. Here's a look at the starting rotation. Chris Archer will be our opening day ace, followed by Musgrove, Williams, Keller, and Brault. Holland and Erlin both have stamina of long relievers. Got Feliz Rodriguez and Birdie as middle relievers, Crick as the setup man, and Keon Kella as the closer. So that'll do it for today's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys are excited for opening day versus the Tampa Bay Rays, which will be up tomorrow. I hope you guys are excited for that one, and as always, have a good one. Peace out.